every business book out there says, find your differentiator, find your USP, and they leave it at that. Incredibly difficult. And then, the second part of that is, okay, now that you have it, succinctly explain it to the world in like one sentence, like what makes you differentiated. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out with all this information out there. A lot of it's a little cloudy and murky. How can I codify this and make it easy step by step that someone could follow along and actually uncover their meaningful differentiator?
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the CEO of Decommoditized, Jesse Wroblewski. Decommoditized.com is the leading provider of brand differentiation consulting to help privately held firms reclaim their leadership positions in crowded spaces. Jesse, so excited to have you on. How you doing today?
Great, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We always like to ask our entrepreneurs, tell us more about your journey. What were you doing before that kind of led you into where you are today?
I had the realization that I became the dreaded C word, and the C word is commoditized. And a lot of people kind of throw that term around. So I'll just kind of give you my own personal definition of what I think it is. When I started in this business 27 years ago, I would get calls from my clients and it would be like, you're the only guy that could solve this. I have these problems. And there was like a lot of pride in what I was doing. And then over the years, as the marketplace gets more crowded, people couldn't tell the difference between a great web designer or a marketer and a garbage one. So that kind of, some of the shine, the bloom was off the rose a little bit. And I wanted that pride back when, people would call. It wouldn't be like, well, you can do it. You're doing it for 500. This guy says 400. What's the difference? Right. So I decided that I wasn't going to just take it laying down. And I realized during my thought process, there was a lot of alignments with how a supervillain thinks, right? I wrote the book Marketing for Supervillains. If you think of a traditional supervillain, most of the time, and this is a pitfall that a lot of my clients fall into, when they're entering a market, there's always like a super brand in the market, and that super brand is equivalent to like a superhero. They have big muscles, which in marketing equates to big budgets. They have huge public favor. Everybody knows who they are. They usually like them. They usually have a huge head start. And then my client comes along, or someone like me comes along and says, well, I want to look like those guys. I want to act like those guys. I want to be like those guys. And if you think about supervillains, they usually don't have big muscles. They have to outsmart or outwit the big brand. So while some of my clients foolishly say, all right, we're going to try and do what they do. We're going to spend what they spend. We're going to try to out social media them, do better in SEO. It takes a supervillain mindset to kind of find that hole in the line where you can get a couple yards and start chipping away at market share. So there's kind of a lot of parallels. And I'd love to share what I'm doing, what I can help your listeners do in order to fight off that dreaded C word of being commoditized.
Absolutely. Super excited about that topic and just your journey in general. And it is so important to try to differentiate yourself. But like you said, people try to copy what the biggest player is doing right now. And typically when someone's asked, what makes you different? What makes you special? They freeze up. They're lost. They're not sure what that means. So I'm sure you can help us kind of find what that is through a series of steps and frameworks on just trying to find the words here, just standing out from the crowd. Right.
Yeah. I look back at my career when the pandemic hit, right? I think everybody did that soul searching and they tried to figure out what they wanted to be when they grew up. And I realized not only the projects that I felt most fulfilling on, but I made the most impact or bang for the buck for my clients were the ones where I took, almost boring products or commoditized products and I injected them with life. I brought them to life and they were able to do what they did on their own. I figured doing that, it seems to be very successful. Let's figure out how to differentiate, right? So every business book out there says, find your differentiator, find your USP, and they leave it at that. And it's incredibly difficult. And then, the second part of that is, okay, now that you have it, succinctly explain it to the world in like one sentence, like what makes you differentiated. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out with all this information out there. A lot of it's a little cloudy and murky. How can I codify this and make it easy step by step that someone could follow along and actually uncover their meaningful differentiator. In volume 1 of Marketing for Supervillains, I kind of like laid the groundwork. Like, this is why you should do it. There's a free download of what I call the universe of differentiation, which is basically 12 different categories of how big brands throughout history have successfully differentiated themselves. You can kind of like categorize yourself in maybe one of those brands. And then the demand came like, okay, we're in. How do we get even further? How do we fully embrace our supervillain lifestyle? So I came up with volume 2, which is a 6-step framework on fully embracing your marketing supervillainism. It's all there. I hope I did a great job of picking up where most business books kind of let you out of the nest, and you try to fly, but you flop and fall on the ground.
Right, absolutely. And I think just the way things are changing and evolving, it's going to change the way that we connect with clients, how we communicate with them, and what that journey looks like with them. Can you tell me more what you think the future of the client connectivity is going to look like?
I think a majority of businesses out there, if you think of the marketplace like a party, right? They just want to be at the party. They want to be on social media. They want to be part of the conversation. They're not really leading the conversation or creating any insights. They just, like everyone else is on Facebook, I guess we got to be on Facebook. And I call that, commoditized content, right? So you're posting content for content's sake. It's digital tofu, and it's a million times easier now, because a few years ago you'd have to actually sit and write a blog, and that did require some legwork. Now you can just write out 100 blogs with the ChatGPT, and now you got like a wingman whispering in your ear just all this stuff to say. And you multiply that by every business out there, and it's going to be just complete overload. And I think the quality over quantity argument will be more prevalent over the years, as quantity is just going to explode. Right. Back in, I think, 2019, scientists discovered something that human beings had never done before. It was an indicator of their future behavior. And that was, we're willing to pay more for less. And where that comes into play is, and again, thinking back to 2019, is the television industry, right? You can get 200 channels for 30 cents each, but people are now saying, I want one channel. I want BBC app for $5. I'll pay $5 because I know I don't have to scroll through 200 channels to get through all the crap to find the one thing I want. So I think that's a trend, if you want to call it human climate change. We're starting to get to a point where I can watch any movie at any time, listen to any song anytime. I need someone to help curate that and help me discover things that I want. And I'll be willing to pay for that. So if you think about social media and just every brand pumping out 100 boring blogs, you're actually going to damage your brand just being at the party, because people are going to be like, you know what? This guy never says anything interesting. Get him out of here. I want the curated stuff. So I think being differentiated is going to be a huge element for business success in the future.
Yeah, it's like the guy who's talking just for the sake of talking, nothing important to say. It's like, just get that out of here.
And you look at, your social media feed now, it's like, whatever brand you use is competing with Netflix, and it's an even playing field. So Netflix has the latest trailer for their latest limited serial killer series, and then you're coming up with 5 mistakes of SEO in 2026. It's like, it's just a different amount of weight. Then you look at like Liquid Death, who's selling water, and they constantly put out consistent, amazing content that is right up there that could steal my attention right away from Netflix.
Mm-hmm. And do you think customers as a whole are becoming choosier? Because it feels like price just isn't the only factor anymore if they are willing to pay more for less, quote unquote, but I feel like they perceive more value.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest definitions or contributors to commoditization is an explosion of choice. And so you take any industry, you add more options, and people are just gonna, they're gonna be overwhelmed, and they're gonna look for whatever, if tentpole is their own personal tentpole. I want it fast. I want it cheap. I want it to look good. So when I'm carrying a water bottle around, people think there's some cachet to it. I no longer have to compare and contrast there's 100 different jars of peanut butter in the shopping in the aisle. It's harder in some sense, but I'm not going to go online and figure out what truly the best formula is unless that really fits my personality. So I think you have to start appealing to clients in more than just what was previously your differentiator, your the best recipe, the best products, the best customer service, and kind of give them a cocktail to choose from.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of businesses are a little too worried or focused on having to produce the best quality content rather than just being normal or human. And I almost feel like there's been a shift over the years towards like highly produced content versus kind of your average Joe, everyday person. I think people are connecting with that more. Do you think that plays a role into um, some of the commoditization that we have today?
Yes and no. Like I see probably half of the commercials on TV now are formatted to look like a TikTok. So they're like vertical, it's a person. So on one sense, they are leaning towards they're trying to appeal, but on the other hand, like you said, they're just copying what's popular. Is there really any authenticity behind that? I think, like you said, it all comes down to that authentic angle. Whatever the tool is to get you there, and whether it's low produced, high produced, vertical format, landscape, I think it's all about the content and the message and the authenticity. How you get there, I really don't think it matters.
Absolutely. And when businesses are trying to set themselves apart, there's this shift that happens where I almost feel like they're trying to sell themselves too hard or they're doing a lot of outbound work for their leads and customers. And once you're standing out, you are suddenly creating this inbound organic lead generation system for yourself where people are recognizing you, they're referring you, they're leaving reviews all the time. And that's a big shift in business to feel like you're putting so much effort out into everybody wants me, or it seems like it.
Yeah, I mean it's a power dynamic, right? When you excel in your industry or business, or you've been doing it long enough, it feels weird. Every sales call is basically me asking you, right? So, hey, Chris, can I help you differentiate? Can I sell you this? Can I offer you this service? And that puts you in the power seat, right? You're the client, you're the power. But me as an expert that's been doing this for 27 years, I should really have the power, right? Like I should guide you as to what I think is best. So there's a book put out by Blair Enns, and he just crystallizes it perfectly. He calls it the flip, right? I am going out there with my hand out and asking you for business. I need to do something, and it's usually on my social media where I write something so insightful that Chris reads it and goes, wow, I got to work with this guy. I never heard anybody say it like that. Now Chris calls me and says, hey, I read what you're a smart guy. Can I work with you? Right. So now all of a sudden that power dynamic flipped. And I think that's, as business owners, as professionals, as people that constantly refine their skills, that's kind of what we want to be known for. And I think in most cases, that's where the client, regardless, is going to get the most value as opposed to them. And, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll miss the Zoom meeting. I'll show up late. Yeah. Like we're here to do business and we're here to do our best. And let me lead. And I think we'll come out with much better output.
I love that. Now, Jesse, can you tell me more about some of your ideal clients, the people you work best with, or just your favorite stories or results of people that you work with?
Sure. When I was going through my soul searching and trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grow up, I came up with I wanted to take the most boring products and services imaginable and make them full of personality. And a couple, coaches and consultants said, yeah, that's great, but no one's going to self-identify as boring, right? And they're going to say like, hey, I'm boring. Let's work together. I had to kind of, come up with a different way of saying it, right? I mean, it's anyone, and I have a list in volume 1 of about 40 signals. You go through the list and you kind of calculate what your score is as to where you are on the scale of being commoditized. Because most people don't want to admit it. They say like, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of competitors. There's an app with a Super Bowl commercial. There's all these things, but you know what? Doesn't affect me. I don't work with lower end clients, though. That's all low end market. I work with higher end, and that kind of creeps up on you. So yeah, I mean, if there's anyone on that scale or like you see it coming down the pike, you see, you're the equivalent of a taxi and you see Uber popping up and you're like, future's not looking too bright. Those are the people I definitely want to work with.
I think most business owners can identify in some aspect of their journey being absolutely just like that, and probably still right now. I mean, business ownership is a journey. It's a struggle. We're kind of learning different things at different times, and sometimes our preparation and opportunity kind of come together, man, it's just tough kind of standing out sometimes. So I know business owners are really going to appreciate that.
Yeah, hopefully, it's a scary thing. I think the biggest misconception with standing out is people say, I hear the word different or differentiated. That has a negative connotation. I'm not really boisterous. I'm not the funniest guy in the room. Do I have to be wacky to be differentiated? And it's absolutely not. In that original universe of differentiation that I was mentioned, there are brands like Rolex, Tiffany, Steinway, brands that you would never really consider differentiated, but clearly different in their industry. They figured out a way to make themselves stand out head and shoulders above the rest. Like Tiffany, well, there's a million jewelers out there. So if you're fearful of, hey, I only wear black clothes, black tie, like I'm not that guy, there's ways to find your meaningful differentiator without being that guy.
I love that. I love that. Now, Jesse, where can people find you and connect with you online?
So my consulting arm of my business is very easy, decommoditized.com. Easy to remember, hard to spell, but I bought all the misspellings of the domain, so you'll probably get there. And on Amazon, Marketing for Supervillains, Volume 1, Volume 2. And we just launched like 48 hours ago on Google Play. We have Marketing for Supervillains, Volume 2 as an audiobook for free. So if anyone's interested, start listening.
I absolutely love that. And we'll have those links available down in the show notes and the description for everybody. Now, Jesse, speaking of supervillains, which supervillain do you most identify with?
It's a great question. It's so hard to pick just one.
And you could have a top 5 or a top 3 because you can pull in elements like I have this from this one.
The one I probably reference most and identify most, and probably most people would agree the greatest villain of all time is probably the Joker from Batman. I mentioned in the book, see if you know the answer. It's a tough one. According to the Joker, what separates him from the rest of us?
That is not my wheelhouse to know.
According to him, it's one bad day, right? So everybody kind of looks down at the Joker. And he was a regular guy, and he had one bad day that just pushed him over the edge. And now he's willing, his tentpole is to show the world that even the most law-abiding, most whatever is able to be corrupted. And he's so willing to prove his point that he's willing to let Batman kill him to prove that, yep, you broke your own rule. You're not any better than me because I kill people. You just killed me. And it just sets the stage for just a great conversation. I actually have a video of my one bad day as an agency owner that completely turned my life around. And it was a client. They allowed us to film. We did discovery for them. And man, it was wacky. And I put the video on YouTube. You can all tune in.
I never realized how relatable the Joker was.
He's on the other side of the looking glass and he's like, I could show you if you just stop looking down on me. Just trust me.
I love that. Now, Jesse, for you, what was the one aha moment where your wheels were spinning, you were doing a lot of work? When did it finally start taking off? What was that big turning point?
Okay, so you're not a Batman fan. How about Star Trek?
Not that I'm not a fan. I don't go that deep into the lore, but I know the frameworks.
All right, so I'll throw another difficult one at you. The Star Trek.
Okay, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Kobayashi Maru?
No.
Okay, the Kobayashi Maru, real quick, is a simulation that all cadets have to go through in order to pass the exam. And basically, it's a no-win scenario. It's 2 ships, and you have to try and save. If you save this ship, this ship's going to die. And there's only one person in the history of Starfleet Academy that defeated the Kobayashi Maru, and that was Captain Kirk. And the way he did it was he went in and reprogrammed the computer to allow him to save both ships. My Kobayashi Maru as an agency owner was my clients come to me and they say, yeah, man, we want to stand out. We want to be the leaders in our industry. We're willing to take risks. And then I do all this work and they come out and say, that was a little too far out there. We were talking about just changing the color of the font a little bit, right? I'm trying to do meaningful work, but I also want to put food on the table. So that's kind of like my no-win scenario. One of these ships is going to die. So I figured out I'm just tired of playing in a no-win scenario game. I need to go in and figure out how to rewrite the rules of the game. And poof, Marketing for Supervillains was born.
Wow, that is incredible. It was such a pivotal moment for you to realize this. And sometimes you have to give the client what they want so you can give them what they need. Yeah. And like you said, the 2 ships, you can only save one, but you're rewriting the rules. I think I think that's a very creative way to look at this problem solving here.
I think it fits perfect. It obviously fits into my nerddom wheelhouse. I know all the deep cuts. So if I can bring someone like you into the fold and make you a little nerdier along the way, great.
I love it. And Jesse, my final question for you, I wanted to ask, what are you looking forward to most in the next year? Are you ramping up anything? Are you doing any new product launches? Or are you kind of sticking with everything that's been working for you?
This year, I mean, it's always kind of been on the corner of my whiteboard. I launched a separate company. It's called Supervillain with some vowels moved out. And it's basically me taking my own medicine, right? It's pushing marketing as far as I possibly can, really edgy, limited edition products. Our first product was a cologne based off Jeffrey Epstein, which sold out. We are coming up on our 5th limited drop. And they're just kind of cultural sabotage type lampoon products that are kind of put out there as an art product in limited edition. And I get to do whatever I want as far as marketing goes, no holds barred. So I'm taking my own medicine and kind of bringing this counterculture brand into existence.
That is so cool. I absolutely love that. Do you mind if I ask, was there a name or a tagline to the Jeffrey Epstein cologne you created?
It is a client. It had happened right when the FBI claimed that his little black book didn't exist. There were no files, no clients. We made it look like a little black leather book, and we called it Clientele by Jeffrey. And there's a couple of little Easter eggs in there. When you remove the bottle, there was a note from the DOJ that said this bottle never existed. And according to my marketing, the scent, it smelled like shame.
That is incredible. Jesse, congratulations. Excited for your journey. The fact that you're living this entrepreneurial dream and taking it to the next level with these new drops, very exciting. Looking forward to all of that, and we appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks so much, and I'll keep you on my my good list for when my supervillain dreams come to reality. I'll spare some of you on the good list.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jesse.